for a whole year under your I don't know whether to call it leadership or misleadership. We have not been able to service. We have basically been declared bankrupt. And the person who has spearheaded this bankruptcy narrative says, I have managed an economy better. Mr. Vice President, where are you living? Are you living on Mars? If you are living on Mars, come down. Zacchaeus, come down from the tree and begin to appreciate the daily pain, the daily suffering of Ghanaians. Today, his usual refrain, teachers are suffering. Everyone is suffering in this country. In fact, the people who are not suffering are persons associated with the president and the vice. He knows that the typical Ghanaian people will just take anything from them. We have not demonstrated anger enough for this level of mismanagement. I have no scintilla of hope in the budget that will be read. Obviously, it's not going to be his last budget because he will read another one maybe October or July 2024, obviously for the next year. So this is definitely not going to be his very last. But this particular one is the final burial. Like they say, Yekumuye, Akaso Mesiye.
Whenever I say my PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
You were till for a PENDREAM TV in Pacho. When you say the news not all from an near bro. News say Obabeti in Pacho, so what didn't want to Trebia and so what didn't Trefa. News be I present your platform with you for your voice note not for sending it. I was 0277 128 777. You're the 2 PENDREAM FM, so Magana for Ninati. Young court, Nyanko T and a story I did bro.
The thought of even presenting a budget is a huge headache for business owners, households, among other things. Randy, as you're aware, the 2022-2023 budgets brought in its wake unprecedented hardship and in some cases death. The pay, the issues of domestic debt exchange program is still with us. The regrettable haircuts that innocent pensioner bondholders, pensioner funds, investors have suffered as a result of the reckless mismanagement of the Ghanaian economy is there. I think tomorrow will just be what I will call the final burial of Ghanaians. That's basically what the budget is going to do, to announce the final burial. After killing us with the budget and all the killer taxes, tomorrow will just herald what I would say is the final burial. Randy, that said, if you look at the toxic nature of the economic mismanagement that we have seen in the past 7 years, you will not have any hope that anything good will come out of the white shirt
of Nazareth.
Absolutely. This one from Chebi. Nothing good is going to come out of this budget. Already, the information that I'm picking is that the luxury vehicle tax that was scrapped is now coming back, reclassified and christened emission tax, but to achieve the same end. And so if you are a taxi driver, if you are a driver, and now let me say the people of Cape Coast, I have good news for you. But this one is bad news. Tomorrow, Ken Ofori on behalf of Akufo-Addo and Bawumia are going to announce a new tax. Just that this time around they are calling it emission tax. and it is going to further impoverish you. And we are talking about a group of people.
Why Cape Coast?
You remember when Bawumia went to Cape Coast, and he said, the people of Cape Coast, I have good news for you. We are going to build a new airport for you. Now the airport has turned audio airport, but we'll deal with that on a different date.
What has that got to do with the budget?
Just to let you know the promises, but I'll just situate it properly. Now, you see, Randy, we have a situation where these people in opposition told us that they were going to move the economy from taxation to production. Now, the score line, after 7 years mismanaging this economy, is that we have a situation where overall tax revenue that have been, as it were, gotten by this administration is in excess of 300 billion in the space of 7 years. And we are still counting. Now, if you put all the taxes that they have taken from Ghanaians, the slogan or the campaign promise that they were going to move the economy from taxation to production is a sham. And that alone further demonstrates that if you believe the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia administration, that they will do anything useful for you, then obviously you do not have a better appreciation of what is going on. And that alone is there. Randy, you also note that this administration behaves like what the scientists call the black hole. It eats everything in its way. To the point that today, they have destroyed the economy that will require a different thought leadership to reverse that trend. And I'm surprised that when the Honorable MP was talking, he said, look, we have come to the point of burden sharing. We cannot burden share. We have taken the responsibility. This is a government that decided to borrow from Ghanaians and foreign investors. When the time was due to pay the principal and interest, you decided to come with a domestic debt exchange program. And you are calling it burden sharing. This cannot be burden sharing. Because the people have done their part. They have paid their taxes. Now, when the time is due for you to demonstrate your side of the responsibility, you have decided to do otherwise and to destroy the economy on top. Look, the release that you just read, obviously, government is living in its own reality. Government is not trying to be real with the people of this country. Obviously, the IMF second tranche, which is the 600 million, is dependent on certain conditions. One of the conditions is that you should have gotten the agreement with your external, creditors, the Paris Club and the Chinese, of course. You have not been able to do that. And that is not a condition subsequent. It's a condition precedent. So you cannot come with a long press release when the reality is that today you do not have the 600 million Ghana cedis, dollars. It's the reality. So my Joe Online is definitely right when they suggest that you needed this money even for the purpose of this budget. The money is not there. So you are just going to read the budget statement tomorrow anchored on, future events happening. Definitely is going to be problematic. For the first time in 30 years, Randy, Cocoa Board is struggling to raise $1.2 billion by way of syndicated loan. How did we get here in the first place? In the past, cocoa producers, cocoa buyers and others, knowing the usual yield among other things, give us the syndicated loan. It's almost as of right. For the first time in 30 years, we couldn't raise 1.2 billion. Because the banks are saying that you are going through a DDEP. Why should I be pouring money into a bottomless pit? We won't do it. But if you want us to do it, then pay us a higher premium. We do not have the capacity to pay that higher premium. So for the first time in 30 years, we have been able to raise only 800 million. Parliament's Finance Committee and co have been looking at the interest rate, higher interest rate, because the bankers said, look, it is too risky to give money to government. How did we get here? And the people who have mismanaged this economy to this level are not demonstrating any remorse. No remorse whatsoever. Within the space of 7 years, Randy, you have destroyed the economy. You have destroyed personal finances of people. And one would expect that the duty bearers, the people who did this generational harm, would demonstrate a certain level of humility. But look at the arrogant posturing of the vice president when he appeared before Asase Radio. I mean, he basically gaslights us. He tells us that, look, the economy that I, Dr. Mahmoud Bambia, as the chairman of the economic mismanagement team, I have done is better than the economy I inherited. Mr. Vice President, you have no respect for Ghanaians. You have no respect for the intelligence and sensibilities of Ghanaians. Mr. Vice President, once you worked at the Bank of Ghana, was there any time that Ghana defaulted in paying its external responsibility by way of interest payment and amortization? No. For a whole year, under your I don't know whether to call it leadership or misleadership, we have not been able to service. We have basically been declared bankrupt. And the person who has spearheaded this bankruptcy narrative says, I have managed an economy better. Mr. Vice President, where are you living? Are you living on Mars? If you are living on Mars, come down. Zacchaeus, come down from the tree and begin to appreciate the daily pain, the daily suffering of Ghanaians. Today, his usual refrain, teachers are suffering. Everyone is suffering in this country. In fact, the people who are not suffering are persons associated with the president and the vice. And it's understandably so. So, Randy, we need to get a few things clear. That the economy is in a terrible shape. It requires a new conversation to reverse that downward trend. As we speak, they want to again play their usual 419 scam by saying, oh, we are going to remove taxes on sanitary pads. Why in God's name should you even place tax on sanitary pads in the first place? I mean, if you are thinking properly, why should you even put tax on sanitary pads in the first place? So that tomorrow you will come and say, oh, we have removed taxes on sanitary pads. Clap for us. You have no respect. And like Randy pointed out, I think the finance minister appreciates his audience. He knows that the typical Ghanaian people will just take anything from them. We have not demonstrated anger enough for this level of mismanagement. I have no scintilla of hope in the budget that will be read. Obviously, it's not going to be his last budget, because he will read another one maybe October or July 2024, obviously for the next year. So this is definitely not going to be his very last. But this particular one is the final burial. Like they say, yekumuye akaso mesiye. Ekumu di omekumuye akaso mesiye. So we are just waiting.
You are dead and talking.
I mean, you should understand. You should understand. So tomorrow is just the final burial. And this budget is one budget that is going to impose additional tax burdens on the Ghanaian, additional tax burden on industry, additional tax on household. When are we going to have a respite? Randy, when are we going to see some glimmer of hope? When? And the very people who have landed this economy here say, oh, give us another 4 years to destroy you more. How can this be? In terms of the specifics, as for La General Hospital, if it doesn't come in this budget, then it means that the wickedness is beyond comprehension. It must feature prominently. Because you see, as for the La General Hospital conversation, I still don't understand. Full-fledged hospital is there. Then you go and break it down. And this is a quadriqua promising you. I mean, the people in Ula should have resisted the destruction of that general hospital. But we've learned from that useful lesson. It won't happen again. Sea defense. For my people within Southern Volta, God gave us the sea for our livelihood. And it has also become our biggest problem.
Climate change.
We are hopeful that at least tomorrow, the sea defense projects and compensation for the flood victims occasioned by that man-made disaster will feature prominently. How they will be resettled will feature prominently in the budget. As you are aware, the spillage had affected as many about 5 or 6 regions in the country.
Yes.
Starting from the Bono regions, Oti,
Quote.
Eastern region,
Yeah.
Greater Accra, Volta, are those affected. I want to hear specific intervention to restore normalcy to these affected
But we
regions.
must say that the finance ministry made some donation, at least. I think, you know, I just want to say that, you know, because you raised it.
Look, we are dealing with a government that has failed in anticipating a risk.
Oh.
And the risk happening and just going there and saying,
We won't go into that today.
It's good we are not going into it.
Story a OTCC no a platform my friend PENDREAM TV aha and I OT story no na o feedback ho hia empa story a watie no any story be a platform no so bia watie a opese o my feedback no mfafa WhatsApp message or WhatsApp number 0277128777 na yebebo e wo PENDREAM FM Ghana for nyina ate won ka
David Kama, I'm not PENDREAM TV as now. So far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.